Are there studies linking erectile dysfunction, lower sperm count, or lower fertility rates linked to cell phones being kept in pockets?
There's actually so much literature on impacts on sperm that the Cleveland Clinic recommends that cell phones not be in your pocket against your body. Keep phones away from your reproductive organs because there's damaged sperm, impacts to sperm mobility, on erectile dysfunction as well. And that's all on our website at ehtrust.org. We have a section on men's reproductive health, and you can see the studies there.
If a phone is off, are we totally safe, or does the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth still transmit?
So if it's powered off so it's completely black, but you actually powered it down completely, then all the antennas are turned off on the phone.
Is cell phone radiation a cumulative thing?
So what really has scientists concerned, just like with plastics or anything that disrupts our hormones or other environmental issues, is the cumulative impact. What is the impact of being exposed every day, morning and night? You know, you're in the office during the day, at night you might have sleep with your phone. What is the long-term impact of the cumulative exposure to not only cell phone radiation, but remember, with all the new things we're doing with phones and wireless, all of these like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, they're all different frequencies and they have different characteristics, and we don't even have data on what is a living organism, what's the impact from these multiple frequencies in the long term. So yeah, what is a cumulative impact is one of the most important issues, just like with what's your load, what's your pesticide load, with your eating and all of these other issues that we work on with our health.
Are there studies showing increased brain cancer from cell phone use?
Yes, there are actually studies in humans and studies in animals. So in humans, there are case control studies that have found that in people who use cell phones for over 10 years with heavy use, that they have an increased risk of glioblastoma, a type of highly malignant brain cancer. Now, what do you think heavy use is? How is heavy use defined in these studies? Depending on which study you looked at, just under 30 minutes a day with the phone to the head. So that's light use. That's not even, that would be like super light use now. Especially if you have a teenager like I do, who, although she uses a corded phone, not a cell phone, but she's on that phone all the time, talking to her friends. And certainly people in certain businesses are on the phone all the time. Now, the animal studies, there have been a number of different animal studies, but until recently we didn't have long-term, with the exposure, very well conducted studies with a large amount of animals. The National Toxicology Program of the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences released the final reports of their $30 million animal study on rats and mice exposed to cell phone radiation for 2 years. So rodents normally live 3 years. This was a 2-year study. And it took over a decade to perform. In fact, in 1999, the Food and Drug Administration requested that well-done animal studies be done, and that's how this all started. So we finally get our results. And what do we find? That the tumors, and I meant to say one other thing, back to humans, and I'm going to jump back to the rats in a second. Also in humans, they found increases in acoustic neuroma, which is a tumor of the sheath of the hearing nerve. So, in the long-term studies, over 10 years of use, heavy or around 30 minutes a day. 1,640 hours, after 1,640 hours. So back to rats. They developed the same cell types of tumors as are found in the case control studies. The National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences released the $30 million study on rats and mice and found that they developed the same tumors as have been found in the case control studies in humans, or the same cell type of tumors. Schwannomas of the heart and gliomas of the brain. And to top it off, the Ramazzini Institute did a study on rats as well, only they did much lower levels of this kind of radiation, of cell phone radiation, at levels of radiofrequency radiation that were within FCC limits, within our government limits, and they also found in the male rats increased schwannomas of the heart. So there are scientists who say at this point there is enough credible scientific evidence so that if the World Health Organization, International Agency for the Research on Cancer, were going to meet and look at this science, that they would classify this as a human carcinogen based on this research. And the National Toxicology Program concluded that the schwannomas of the heart were clear evidence of cancer, which means that there's an association between the radiation and the development of the tumor. And there's also research showing that this radiation acts as a tumor promoter, so that when you have the combination of radiofrequency combined with a known toxic exposure that they know is going to cause the animals to develop cancer, those ones that got both developed more cancers than the animals that only got the toxic exposure. So, yes, there are studies. Unfortunately, there's not a federal agency that has done a systematic review of the science, and instead we're hearing that the FDA said of that study they've rejected the findings of clear evidence of cancer. They issued a statement, and our limits are, we don't need to change our limits. In fact, if you look at studies and you look at who funded, just like with all other environmental issues, who funded the studies, you find that the majority of studies funded by industry show no effect. The majority of studies that are independently funded show an effect.